Hello everyone, and welcome to One Control Port Podcast, episode 226. I'm Benjamin Yoder, here today, talk to you about video games. But before we get too deep into that, first I want to talk a little bit about what to expect out of this channel in the upcoming weeks. There's a few things going on that is really going to just disrupt my ability to create anything or get something done anytime soon. One is when it comes to my work that actually, provides for me and feeds me. There are some massive changes that are happening there, and I don't really know what my responsibilities are going to be. I don't really know what how things are going to go. If I'm going to have to work overtime at all, any of that stuff. So just as a heads up, I might have to go kind of deeper into that a bit in the next month or so. It's just kind of really up in the air. There's a lot of things changing at this moment. So yeah, that is happening. Also at the same time, if you haven't really been following, I've been, working on these projects, and I was hoping that a lot of them would be easy things I can knock out really quick. Nintendo G video, I expected that to be pretty quick, or to be like a standard video rather. But like the GameCube list video, I wanted that to be quick, but then I made the investment to talk about Homeland, so that has basically put that on hold at this point, unfortunately, but I want to do that video right. And then also, I also worked on the Chibi Robo video, and I scripted that out, and that's actually something fairly easy to put together, but I want to put it out after this stuff I'm working on right now, so I kind of have to set it to the side. And also I haven't done any video editing at this point, so maybe it would be challenging. I don't really know yet. And then I was like hoping, because the GameCube video was not as, the GameCube list video I was working on, it was not as quick as I thought it'd be. I started another video trying to hope that would be a quick video I could put together. And the more and more I got into it, the more complicated it got. And then like the video itself, I think is a good video. And I could definitely just wing it and just say everything off the cuff. But like, I want to do it right. And I found things I want to say that I want to make sure I'm saying them right. And it just basically has put everything to a crawl at this point. And it doesn't help that I also made a lot of social commitments the last month or for this upcoming month. Basically, all I'm saying is I don't really know when anything's coming out yet at this point. I know you guys are waiting for the PCFX stuff. I want to get to it. I've got something drafted for Kishin Zenki. Again, I'd expect that to be easy, but at this point, everything seems easy until I start working on it, and then I make it complicated. So I'm just kind of, pumping the brakes. I'm going to focus on this one particular thing I want to focus on right now. Will that thing come out anytime soon? I don't really know. It's not really come together as quickly as I was hoping it would, but we'll see. And I don't want to talk about it too much just in case I cancel it or shelve it and then have to come back to it later. So it's just kind of a bad time right now. And I also have just not been taking care of myself, not sleeping super well, not eating super well, not really giving myself the time I need to recuperate from stuff. And I started to really feel that this last month, and the last week I've basically been in hibernation mode. I have not done all that much because I'm just overwhelmed by a lot right now. So anyways, I appreciate you letting me have that little moment there and vent about that. It's nothing that's, hey, I'm gonna say this. All of this is stuff that is just normal stuff. It's just how I am as a person when it comes to being an introvert, not really having a lot of ability to have a lot of energy in a lot of situations where I'm new situations with work and all this other stuff. It's just a lot of things coming together all at once in a way I didn't want to come together, but it's just how it is right now. So, and we'll get through it. It's just, the reality is it's just going to make it so nothing's going to come out here in the near future, unfortunately. So to talk a little bit about my hibernation mode week, where I basically didn't do a whole lot a ton of stuff, although I did do a lot of troubleshooting that I probably shouldn't have been doing because it was very time consuming. But to start there, basically I went ahead and set up my Windows XP machine. Everything pretty much was good all the way until the point where I tried to hook it up into my capture setup. So previously I was using a Windows laptop or Windows XP laptop that I had set up, and I was able to capture it without any issue, with the one problem being that the actual VGA port on the system was basically half dead. I could get it to work, but only if I put a lot of pressure on it. So I could get it to go into the capture card, no problem. But I just couldn't actually do anything because I had to hold the cable in the whole time. And obviously I had just bought that laptop, so that didn't make any sense to keep it. So I returned it. So this system seems fine, but when I connect it into my capture card, it just does not play nice. I don't know if it's an issue with the video output on the capture or on the video card itself, what the FrameMeister itself is expecting, or something else along the line is breaking. I don't know at this point. And also there's like the card in this machine is like a Intel integrated card, so I don't think it's like anything special, and I don't know if that is causing any problems, because the previous one had like an NVIDIA card in it or something, so I don't know if anything is different between those cards and how they handle it. I'm not very technically minded when it comes to this kind of stuff. I kind of get what I need to get stuff done for the most part, and then from there, I'll basically figure it out. So I did get the opportunity to just like mess around a little bit. I was able to go ahead and pull a lot of cool things off of the First Kiss Story desktop accessory disk. So some of those files I couldn't access as easily without actually installing a lot of the applications on there. So one thing I installed was the wallpaper or the screensaver pack, and inside that screensaver pack there was a whole collection of the CG scenes from First Kiss Story, from the PS1 version, I believe. So they're definitely higher quality. Some of them are definitely from the PCFX version, just like, basically displayed at a higher resolution, but some of them were actually drawn for the PS1 release as well. So if you're watching the video version of this podcast this week, I'm having a slumber party with Kana, and I forget her name, Ayame? Something like that. The lady who like gets all like upset about her weight at some point. Had a slumber party then, and I'm taking Manami's role. I'm on the ground here, got a bear. It's all good. So yes. Anyways, but there's like a bunch of cool graphics from that I got. So I need to upload this to archive.org. I just got to figure out which disk that screensaver pack came from. Because I want to upload it along with that disk. So if it's disk 3 already, I'll just upload it alongside the existing disk. If it's disk 1 or 2, I need to archive those as well and put them to archive.org. Speaking of archive.org, I did go ahead and scan the Ojousama Sousamou light novel this week. I got that novel in, and basically, it is an actual light novel, so it's mostly text. But there are graphics, not only the cover of the book, but also in the first few pages, there's some colored inserts there, as well as throughout the story, there's like little black and white kind of line drawings in there too. So I went ahead and scanned all those, uploaded those to archive.org. I sent them over to Game Vincati or whatever it's called, so they'll be putting it on their thing probably at some point. And so those are uploads. So that's online for you to download if you want them. I would love to scan the entire book. But scanning books is a pain, and obviously the Japanese text is important in there because that is what the book is mostly text. But for the purposes of my situation of not being able to read Japanese, it's not the highest priority. But I do want to find a way to scan books at some point. More reliably, because right now I'm just doing non-destructive book scanning, and it's just not great, not only from a scan quality perspective, but also from a it's just a pain to kind of do. I would love to have something that would like more easily, just basically wedge in and scan the book that way, because that way I could just put the page down or the book down, scan it, and then do the next one, and it would still take forever, right? But at the very least, I wouldn't have to sit there and like smush it, line it up, and all that stuff. All that stuff just takes a lot of time. It also damages the book to some degree, with the spine specifically. So anyways, I got some cool stuff from there. I got some screensavers up and running. I want to record the screensavers at some point, but I'll have to just kind of wait and see, how I figure that out. I kind of put it on the back burner because I don't really know what to do yet. I am getting potentially another PC from work, and those have like an NVIDIA graphics card in there, and they were also running XP at some point. So I'm going to grab one of those probably and try with maybe see if that will be fine enough. If anything, those PCs are a lot better. They're just full towers rather than small form factor PCs, so it won't be as easy to keep around. But I think it'll be worth keeping one of them. There's like 3 of them at the moment. I do need to put a drive in there though, because we're shredding the drives basically, right? Because they're business PCs. So, anyways, that whole thing happened. Also, speaking of my capture setup, I tried the 4K setup thing. It's a no-go, unfortunately. Basically, my card is not does not meet the requirements for the motherboard. I don't know anything about motherboard, so I'm not surprised that I just had no idea what I was doing with buying that. And basically, I put the card in, and then it wasn't working, and then I went to the troubleshoot, and they basically said, your motherboard's not good enough. Sorry, dude. Rip. Buy a new PC. So I'm not looking to buy a new PC right now, but I will. So I returned the 4K capture card, so that's like $200 there. I am gonna keep getting the RetroTink 5X, if only because of the resolution swapping. I think that's kind of a important thing that I would like to have. I'm not sure what I'll do with my FrameMeister after that. First, I need to make sure everything works properly right, and given how busy the next month is, I could end up taking a little while to actually set everything up and make sure everything works fine and properly. But at the same time, I am looking. I think I will at the very least like set up the RetroTink for like component capture games, things like that are super easy. I think the part that's going to be a bit more questionable is like Dreamcast games and anything I'm using that uses SCART, because my SCART setup, I know there's something like with my SCART setup where like one of the connectors is Japanese and one of the connectors is European, and like if you put the wrong thing in, it can blow something up. So I need to be careful about that specifically, at the very least. but we'll see. So looking forward to get that RetroTink, but I don't know quite when I'll get there. I do need to just kind of like rewire the area behind my PC in general. Honestly, it's kind of a nightmare back there. And admittedly, like part of it was me just like temporarily moving my stuff to where it is right now. So I didn't really wire it up nice because I wasn't sure if I was gonna like basically decide this is where my desk was going to be in my new apartment layout that I was going to do. And then I ended up deciding to be here, and now it's been like 2 years. So, or maybe it's been like a year or something like that. So I do need to go back there and like rewire everything, but it's just not high priority right now. So yeah. And then also Mario Kart 7 and Disney Magical World. I'm having a hard time talking today. Disney Magical World came in, and those both look like real copies, so I'm glad I got them for $15 each. That's pretty affordable for both, and I wanted both of them. I imagine not many people buying Mario Kart 7 wanted Disney Magical World, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to checking out Disney Magical World at some point. I think it looks like a really fun game, and it's interesting because I think the first and second game are actually pretty different. So I'll be curious to see the comparison. I think the second game is more of a life sim than the first game. The first game maybe looks like more of a minigame collection kind of thing, which maybe is why they didn't pair them together in that Switch release they announced during the Nintendo Direct. And then finally, I'm not going to post a picture here because it is somebody's personal picture, but I did go ahead and look at somebody's Pripara card pack they were uploading to Twitter. So they're showing, how they're storing their new Pripara cards. This is the one I was talking about earlier with like the or in the podcast or two ago, where they had the like almost like crown on top of the cards, like a princess crown kind of thing. So it had like this elaborate design on top, and I wasn't sure what the height of the card was, if it was like taller than a usual card, and it is taller than a usual card. And basically the card pack they have seems designed to facilitate that taller card. So if you're putting it in like a baseball card holder, you're probably not going to be able to store them in the same way unless it has a lot of clearance on top of the card slot, basically. So these Pripara card packs, they're card holders they're selling are accounting for that, where obviously most others probably will not. So it's interesting to see them go to those non-standard card holders or card sizes. And I'm curious, if the drive to be like, hey, now we can sell our own specific card, holders for these things, and people buy them because these fit particularly in here. I wonder if that was like part of the drive of changing the card at all, or if it's just like a side effect. But the person I was looking into and like reading their tweets about it and everything, they seem to love the cards and how they looked. So that's cool that they enjoyed it. I don't know if there's anything new about the game itself, or if it's just good old Pripara, but with the new card top to it. So yeah. And that's pretty much been it in terms of just like stuff I've been working on in general, while I've been kind of not working too much on stuff. It's just like, I had one night this week where I got home and just like went to sleep the second I got home, and then woke up the next day like 13 hours later. So yeah. And then also one thing I have been doing as well in terms of just like listening to podcasts and stuff is I've never really watched Pat the NES Punk stuff at all. I was surprised that I just kind of grabbed onto his channel recently and just started like watching a lot of his podcasts, and also he has like the flea market madness thing he does, where basically he goes around with the flea markets and basically buys stuff and picks stuff up, and that's cool and all. And that actually makes a lot of sense when I always hear like collectors and stuff be like, oh, if you want to go to a flea market like people online are doing, then you have to like get there early and things like that. I'm like, and I definitely understand the concept of a flea market and why you'd go there to buy games, but I didn't really think about the fact that like people are actually streaming themselves going to these flea markets and stuff, or recording it and then uploading it as content. So people might look at it and be like, oh, look at these great finds they find every week kind of thing. And that it would be like an actual, thing that they're following. So that actually makes a lot of sense. But anyways, yeah, so I've just been enjoying that and enjoying his channel quite a bit. So yeah, in terms of game playing, we did play a little bit of Apex this week. I don't really have anything to add there. I think Apex is pretty much going to be put on hold for a little bit because of all the other stuff that's happening. And maybe I'll play it if I feel like the absolute need to just like eject myself from life basically and think of nothing but Apex shooting. That's the nice thing about Apex, is that it is literally just like, this is the video game I play when I don't want to think about anything. Although there's like some social interaction that goes on if I play with other people with that. So and then I played EDF 4.1. We went ahead and started that up. The EDF was on sale during Tokyo Game Show week this week, and that group that I played Insect Armageddon with was like, actually, this is something we want to kind of pursue and play. I think part of it was driven possibly by VTubers as well playing EDF, but that's its whole thing. That's fine as long as people like get interested in it, right? So yeah, we played a bit of EDF 4.1, and I had fun with that. It is EDF, right? It is everything you expect it to be. And not much more than that, and not much less than that. It's just good dumb fun of blowing stuff up. There's definitely some strategy on some of the harder levels and things like that you need to consider, but it's nothing really that big of a deal. Nothing much more to say beyond what I said last week about Insect Armageddon, other than the fact that because it is like the actual EDF series and not the one developed by that one like side studio, it definitely is less balanced, but it also is more extreme in a lot of ways in terms of not only its weapon types, but also just in like the number of enemies on screen and things like that. So yeah, it's a nice thing about the group we're playing with, is that everybody's kind of playing as a different class. I'm still just playing as the flying character because I personally feel like in standard EDF games, you play the flying character because that's like the only decent way to move around. But I do know there's like dash canceling and things like that. And it seems like, like as long as you're kind of sticking together as a group, on the ground, then the people on the ground kind of, move around as they need to. And because they have, more capabilities in the harder missions, they definitely have the ability to kind of, better manage versus like I forget what it's called, the Valkyrie or whatever, or something, wing divers, I think they're called. But yeah, so like when you're flying around as a wing diver, you're a lot weaker compared to the other characters. So if everybody's a wing diver, then I think it kind of balances out because everyone has the ability to kind of fly around and pick up stuff really quick, not only health but also revive each other. But when you have like a mix of classes, the wing diver kind of has its particular role of go and collect items around the map, go and get health, and go revive people and things like that. That I think that it kind of amplifies their particular role a little bit more than if you're playing with only people who are playing as wing diver, basically. So yeah. In terms of Tokyo Game Show stuff this week, there's a handful of different games that I caught my eye. Magician's Dead, we talked a little bit about this beforehand, and I was pretty excited to kind of figure out how they were handling Magician's Dead, because that game has motion controls, or rather, you put your hand out in front of the system, and then you kind of track your finger motions as well as where you're pointing your hand. And basically, for the most part, as you might expect, they're just mapping the controls to the gamepad, and everything is going to play like a normal video game. However, it sounds like from the 4Gamer impressions that were posted online, they do ask you to do like certain analog stick movements to cast certain spells and things like that in the game. So they are trying to keep some of that momentum of how you move your hand around, potentially playing a role in like how you use moves as a part of that, at least mapping it to analog stick controls. It sounds like they're going to be adding more story content as well, more levels, all that stuff. I don't know if they're going to include the arcade content in there, or if this is basically going to be like the sequel to it, and then if you're in the arcade, you got that experience back when that was available, and now it's gone, kind of thing. So yeah, there's the new trailer for the Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin game, this is like that third-person action game that was included in, I think it was like E3 earlier this year. And everybody was like, oh, this is a really cool idea. Then when the actual execution came into play, most people were like, actually, no, I don't really want what this game ends up turning out to be. And I looked at it at the time, and I think I thought, yeah, this looks fine. This new trailer I liked a lot, mainly because of weapon variety. I'm a big fan of weapon variety in action games, and it seems like there is a good diversity of different types of weapons and how they work and things like that. I believe there are complaints in the original demo they put out about the weapon or the combat not feeling good, so they said that they adjusted the combat for that, and I think they put out another demo on PS5. So I think people were able to check that out this week, or at least if not this week, I think it's an upcoming demo potentially. So I didn't look too much at other people's impressions, just that initial trailer that came out. I think it's a March release date, and it is going to have multiplayer. So I'm curious to see how that multiplayer is. You know, if you've been listening for a while, you know I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy 15 Comrades. I like that game a lot, but it never really I was never able to really get people to play it to the extent that I needed to progress further. I got the first credits at the very least, right? And I would love to play more of that, but it is a very grindy game at some point, and unless you have people really committing to that grind, I think it's going to be difficult to really finish that up, or you'll need somebody to carry you, basically. So I am still part of the Final Fantasy 15 Comrades Discord group. If I really wanted to, I could go in there and have somebody try to carry me through those last missions, so I could kind of finish up the next part of the story or whatever, as much story as there is in that game, right? The initial plot is very much like slotting you into a particular part of Final Fantasy 15. Everything after that, I think, is a lot more just like open-ended of like, we just need to give you an excuse to, keep messing around with this comrades thing, basically. So I am excited to see what that ends up being, and if it is like in-depth enough, I'm a big fan of multiplayer action RPGs, so I'll definitely see if I can, get some people to jump in on that with me. Speaking of multiplayer Final Fantasy stuff, there was a new, I don't know if there's a new trailer, but there was a gameplay demo session they did for The First Soldier, which is the Final Fantasy VII Battle Royale game. I was looking at a beta a couple of weeks ago, and the beta gameplay I saw was not great. Admittedly, it was just a random person playing the beta, so, how busy or active it was. I don't know when they were playing, how much they knew about the game, things like that, but it didn't give the greatest impression. The demo they showed off during the Tokyo Game Show stream was a lot more impressive, I think. It was a three squad game, and it just, obviously the developers have an idea of what's going on with that, so they did, show off a lot of the more advanced spell elements of the game. They talked about the fact that you can do like quests while you're on the map, although I don't really know how, they didn't really show how those quests come into play when you're on the map, but apparently it just like helps you level up. And then there's also like, the whole mechanic where you're fighting monsters versus, fighting people, and getting to see a bit more of that, since they are specifically kind of showing off, those aspects of the game that kind of make their game unique. The biggest problem I just have at this point, and this is true from the previous beta I saw, was just because it's a mobile game, like even the developers playing on stream seem to really struggle with aiming and moving, and the other people they're playing with seem to be struggling with that as well. There are definitely bots in that thing, or I'm pretty sure that there were bots in the match, because that's kind of how those mobile battle royales work for some reason. I'm sure there's a good reason why they all have them, but in that case they had those. So but there's times where it seems like it's a normal player and they just like stop moving, because I guess they're trying to like finick with their inventory or aim and shoot, and it just seems like that people have a really hard time with those touch controls, and I'm sure I would have the same problems as well. They are adding gamepad support though, so I think that will probably be a big help there. But the reality is that on being on mobile, I'm probably never going to check it out. I do need a new phone probably some point in the near future, but I'm not going to get a new phone specifically for this. I'm gonna get a new phone when I need it, essentially. So my phone's pretty old at this point. I really want to try like Grimoire of Souls when that came out, but my phone was also too old for that too. So I don't know. I hope they bring it to another platform, but because it's built for mobile first, I think it'll always kind of have that kind of jankiness to it. It does not run great in the beta. I did go ahead and look up some like Apex mobile gameplay from that beta, and Apex seems to be running a lot better at this point, and generally seems to play smoother, though the people playing the Apex beta content online seems to be like people who are really like engaged in that space overall, so they have more familiarity with how those controls work, and it seems to go a lot better. So I don't know if there's an issue particularly with the controls in Final Fantasy The First Soldier like gameplay or how that controls. But it does not give the greatest first impression from any of the trailers and gameplay I've seen of that title. And I'm sure the gamepad will help, but the game just looks dragged down by being a mobile in general, not only from a visual perspective, but also just how it runs. And I kind of question, how much strategy you can have in a game like that. Admittedly, when it comes to First Soldier, that game is focusing more on variety than it is like, intense gunplay or something like that. So I kind of expect it to be a bit more janky than most other games in that space. But because there's a lot more going on in that game with the RPG elements and all that stuff. So I don't know. If it comes to another platform, I'm still like excited to check it out. But being on mobile, I don't think I ever will, unfortunately. So they also announced Dusk Driver 2 during the Tokyo Game Show. I don't really have anything to say about that other than cool. I thought Dusk Driver looked like a very cool game, and I'm glad that it did well enough to get a sequel. I think it's a Korean developer, if I recall correctly, on that. One other kind of random news story here is that HuneX, this is very important, I'm sure all of you care, HuneX relaunched their website, so they got a new look to their website, but at the same time, they still maintained all their backlog history of all their games and stuff, so I was really glad that they kept that. They have a very extensive history of the games they've released, dating all the way back to the early 90s. HuneX has been around for a long time, if you did not know that, and they are still around today making video games. So I was really excited to see that they kept all that stuff in place because, I would say I probably don't like how they divided it up so much. Before, you could divide it up by the type of job it was for them. So whether it was an original game, a game they ported, or for some reason there were some weird distinctions like otome game versus other things. But in this case, now they just do it by either platform or by like genre. So they have like a line sticker section, so you can see all the line stickers they made, the release date of those line stickers. Like, is that important? Not really, but I think it's very cool that they have kept track of that stuff and they put it on there. Although the like mobile phone stuff, I haven't checked to see on the new website, but the old mobile phone website for the old mobile phone stuff would show like basically the release year being 00000000 because nobody kept track of any of that for those like old Nokia phones and everything. So anyways, one other weird thing is that they have so there's this game called Celebration they worked on. It was like around the time that they were shifting off the PCFX. So I think there's like a PlayStation and a Dreamcast version. Maybe it's a PlayStation 2 version and a Dreamcast version. I'm only super aware of the Dreamcast version, but there's also a PC version of Celebration as well. And apparently, like, for some reason, the Taiwan version of that Celebration website is up on the internet still. So I navigated around that and looked at that game a little bit. So that was kind of neat to kind of explore that. It is very much just looks like your pretty typical dating sim kind of thing. So nothing fancy in that regard. Although I did like on the website, they had not only some graphics you could download in terms of like some of the sprite art and character sprites and stuff like that, but they also had a complete guide for the game too, like in a way that I would not expect an official website for a game to have, just like complete breakdown of how you go and how you get every single ending and stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting for the CGs. They actually like list out the CGs and like here's the CG you can get, but they don't show you the complete CG graphics or like full screen graphic. They like make it like sepia tone or something like that. So it's like a teaser version of the graphics. So that's kind of a neat little thing. Also, like the site was built with like MIDIs playing in the background, and now in like a modern browser it just downloads the MIDIs immediately. So I went through and downloaded all the MIDI tracks from the website, and I actually like the soundtrack a lot, but unfortunately I can't find a lot of information about the game overall other than the Dreamcast release. The Dreamcast release, enough people have sat down and played that in recent years that you can find some like gameplay for that. The PC version's a bit of an interesting one because I could not find any PC listings online. It's Windows 95 and Windows 98, so not super surprising probably. But I could not find any listings online. But I did find that when I was looking around, there was some reports of there was actually like an R18, so like the erotic version of it, sold, but it was sold only at like as a limited time event item, and then all the other releases that were released in stores were all the all ages versions. So that's kind of interesting. But the fact that I can't even find a single PC version online tells me that it's probably not super common, or also and also that the R18 version, unless there's like a weird stock imbalance or whatever, probably even less common. So I don't know. I don't remember when I was in Japan if I saw too many like Windows 95, 98. I feel like maybe in like Suragaya I saw some, but I'd have to go back and look. I'm acting like I could just go down there some weekend or something. But I do remember there being like a lot of like PC sections. But most of those I seem to recall them being like more modern operating systems. But maybe I was just like so fixated on finding PC98 stuff that I just basically passed by the Windows XP stuff and things like that. So that'd be something fun to do if I ever go back, if I like go back to Akihabara and then just see what kind of like old Windows stuff I can find in those kind of stores. Obviously Beep has it. Beep's going to be, or Beep has those types of things, not that they have Celebration. But, Beep's going to be pretty pricey for the most part. I mean, anything in Akihabara is going to be pretty pricey. But you're going to have, like, a larger stock at the very least. And you can look around there. So, don't really know what the cost of those kind of things are. I know the PC98 stuff has gotten quite a bit pricey. Most of my cheap PC98 stuff I got were junk versions. So, because some of them do not work. But at the very least, I got the materials themselves. So, I can scan those at some point in my life, right? So yeah. Anyways. That's it for this week. Thanks for coming. OneControlPort.com is the website. Like I said earlier, I don't really know what's going to happen. I appreciate you guys being patient with me, though. I know it's kind of a lot for me to sit there and just like dump like, hey, everything is on fire right now, so I don't know when this is going to get done. Not only in personal life, but also YouTube life, and also my ability to process people life. So yes, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me explain that, and if you're understanding as well. We'll be streaming Sonic and the Black Knight coming up on Thursday this week at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to come and check that out, we'll be doing that. I don't think that game's going to be too particularly long, maybe 2 or 3 streams, but we'll see how it goes. It seems like maybe the main game itself is maybe about 4 hours, and then maybe there's some additional content, but what that additional content is will probably play a big role in whether or not we actually check it out. I also have an idea for a Halloween stream set up. I think it's going to be kind of a crap shot in terms of like it might be terrible, it might be good. Basically, we're going to play a game that I purchased and have never looked at, so I don't really know what it is, but I think it kind of fits the vibe and tone of Halloween. It is a Japanese game, so feel free to join in. It's a Capcom Japanese game, actually. Never seen anybody ever talk about this game before, so I'll be interested to see see if it's something we can dig into. That will probably happen either the Thursday before Halloween, or if not, then a day earlier. I do know I'm leaving that weekend to go out of town to go see my sister, so I don't know what day I'm leaving is really the thing. So I don't really know 100% sure what day that will be yet, but at least for now, you can go and play it on Thursday. We're also doing community stuff on Saturdays now at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's being run by Space Galaga or Mr. T if you are in the stream chat. And that's in our Discord group. So the last couple of weeks we watched, this week we watched Project Ako. Ako. I don't know. In the dub they say Ako, but I assume it's probably Ako based off how it's written. And then we also, before that, watched Otaku no Video or something like that, which is the founding of that one anime studio. I always forget. I'm not a big anime expert, so I always forget about who does what. But it's like the Evangelion people or something. Gainax? I don't know. Something like that. But Otaku no Video, it was interesting. I didn't really know what I was getting into with that. Same thing with Project Ako. I didn't really expect it to be such like a gag movie or whatever at some point. So anyways, but we'll be watching the movie called The Samurai. I think we're going to be watching the dub probably, but I don't know for sure yet on that. And then after that, I think it's like 45 minutes long. And then after that, we'll be playing a game that's either Jackbox or something similar to Jackbox. So again, that's at 7 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday that we'll be doing that. And you're welcome to join us. Just got to join the Discord group. If you want to receive notifications for those, let me know in the Discord group, because I can add you to the role that gets notifications for those streams group things. So yes. And then also I am working on those interviews that I mentioned earlier. I got one done this weekend. So that one I'm probably going to put on hold a little bit. And then I have another one that I'm going to be doing this upcoming weekend. And from there, again, I just got to kind of figure out what's falling where on a lot of this stuff. And at this moment, I don't really know what's going to fall where. But I had a good fun time talking to the person. So I'll bring it up as I get closer to release date. And then we can get through that. I feel like this is one of those weeks where just like my words are everywhere. Admittedly, I feel exhausted this week, and I feel like it's not going to get any better for the next month. So we'll see how things go. Anyways, that's gonna be it. I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap this up now. Thanks for coming. OneControlBoard.com is the website, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.